guys say the OC Remix YouTube videos are really funny to me. Because I was listening to the song on the YouTube video, and it's like, oh, this whole video is just an ad for OC Remix. Okay,
yeah.
I mean, fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they had to have something that loops on there, but
I guess. But I thought like the thumbnail looked really cool, and I was like, oh, you could just use that as a background. But no,
we're like, no, we're gonna advertise.
You know, I mean, you know, some people run websites for free and don't get compensated for it. So
you know. So it's a passion project.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of one of those.
Thank you, DJ Pretzel. Oh, that's not who you were talking about.
Well, yes, I am. I appreciate DJ Pretzel and everyone involved in OC Remix. They've been doing that for a long time.
It's definitely dedicated.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome to episode 115 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I'm your host, Mike Salbato, and I am trying to get back into the swing of things. If you've been listening to the show lately, you'll know that I was fortunate enough the last several episodes that other people have come in and hosted songs. See, I told you I'm rusty. They've been hosting episodes on my behalf, so I've missed several. It's nice to be back, but I also want to thank everyone who's been on the last 3 or 4 episodes without me. It's been very nice. I've enjoyed listening to them, and I hope everyone else has too. Yeah. So let's see. We got some people here today. First of all, here with me is Hilary Andreff.
Yes, hello. I would like to host the Final Fantasy Prelude, please.
Oh, okay. We're going to double down on this now?
Yes.
Okay. Also with me today is Audra Bowling.
Hiya.
And Peter Treizenberg.
Hey, I think I'm going to host Dearly Beloved.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, congratulations, Audra. You're the only one who didn't sass me, so you are now at the top of my list for the day.
Okay.
Yes. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here. As you can probably tell by the name of this episode, whatever it ends up being named, we're talking about dungeon music today, which shockingly is a theme we've never done on Rhythm Encounter.
Yeah, like 100 episodes in, and we're just like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't it? I mean, we've done so many. We've done so many, like, common RPG things. We've done maps and towns and characters and bosses and battles. But yeah, just dungeons specifically somehow eluded us until now. So here we are. We actually held a staff poll to decide on, like, this in the next 6 or 7, I think, episodes. And dungeons was by far the top. Like, it was the thing people wanted to do the most. So yeah, happy we're doing it. Obviously there was interest, and it's just, again, surprising. It never happened before. So yeah, so that's the theme today. Dungeons and RPGs specifically, not like dungeons like Peter has in his basement for his atmospheric Yu-Gi-Oh battles.
Shh, you're not supposed to tell people about that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I forgot that was a need to know thing.
Pharaoh, let my people go. Not unless you can defeat me in a duel, Moses.
Oh my god.
I saw that floating around and I freaking died.
All right. See, I'm glad you had that ready, because I was happy with that. I came up with that, like, stupid little joke, but it paid off. So before we get into the actual music, just I always like asking people really quick, like, what drew you to this episode? I know everyone voted on it and people wanted this one to happen, but you were the 3 that made it here. So let's start with Peter.
Yeah, I mean, I think dungeon areas in RPGs are just kind of like where you spend a lot of the actual, like, minute-to-minute gameplay. There are these, you know, set pieces. You fight enemies, you fight bosses, you're looking for loot, you're exploring. And they're just these really, they're always like high, sometimes low points, often high points of the games we're playing. And they often also have some really, really catchy music.
Yeah, I'm with you. How about you, Audra?
Pretty much similar reasoning. Dungeons to me are very iconic of RPGs, and I think they have some incredible music sometimes for them. So I was just super excited to be on this podcast to talk about it.
Sweet. And how about you, Hilary?
They're important. like Peter said, due to the amount of time you spend there. And I am pretty interested in musically kind of what makes that more versus less pleasant, what people want to listen to during all that time, what we actually consider good. So I wanted to look into that and think about, the qualities I enjoy in dungeon music and what I like to listen to during all of those hours.
Those are all great answers. I'm just here because we needed a host.
Oh,
No, I mean, I was just excited about the topic in general because, like I said, it's one aspect of the show that we've never touched on. So it was interesting to like go through and, I have a lot of music, of course, not to mention anything you can find online. But like I was going through all of my stuff in iTunes / Apple Music and just like looking like I have so many potential options for
there's
this.
a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of kind of expectations and conventions that go along with, dungeon theme in an RPG. Like people have certain things they expect. And so I think it's interesting to kind of tease out what some of those expectations are and how the music we picked, goes along with or doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by the selection here.
Good.
Yeah, me too.
I think we picked some good tunes, and it was definitely a process trying to pick just 2 for the show out of however many that options we had for this. Because this one thing RPGs aren't lacking is dungeon music. Oh my goodness!
Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll do another one. I know when we kind of rebooted the show a few years ago, it was like that was an intentional choice to cut it down to 2 songs per person. But, even when you could bring on 3 or 4, some topics like this, like it's still not really enough. So it's always a hard choice.
Yes, this will be Dungeons, part 1 of 30.
Back when we did battle music, it was a long time ago now, but we actually did do 3 of them in a row, like back to back. I don't really want to do that now, but
I don't think that makes this episode, like the low level dungeon. We should claim like final dungeon or cool dungeon, space dungeon.
I think we have all of those in this one.
That's true.
There is a final dungeon. There's what I think is a post game dungeon. No, there's at least 2 final dungeons. So yeah,
I picked a sewer dungeon.
Oh no!
It had to be done.
Anyway, I'm just saying
there has to be at least one.
That's true.
Of the dungeon episodes, though, I think we should be one of the cool dungeon episodes.
Okay. You don't want to do like an April Fool's episode that's just terrible dungeons. Not terrible music, but like good music and bad dungeons or bad.
I don't know. That could be a fun challenge, actually.
It could be. Wait, why are these all sewers?
Why is it just the thousand Maws of Totorak like played on loop?
Yep.
All right. Well, I say we get into things now. So, Hilary, you have our first song today.
I do. We are starting slow and somber here with the Ruined Sparkling City, which is a Shimomura track from the Legend of Mana soundtrack.
Is it okay if I tell people what your theme for this episode almost was?
Okay.
If I'm not spoiling your notes, like Hilary decided that she wanted this one early on, almost also picked the Dead Sea from Chrono Cross.
Yep.
So her theme for the episode was almost like sad sack dungeon music.
Just emotional dungeon music.
Which didn't exactly happen, but I like the idea. Maybe
music to be depressed to.
Yeah, maybe that's another episode.
Depressing dungeons. I mean, it's a subset of dungeons and RPGs.
It is. Some are done really well, so yeah. Okay.
Like this one, but we'll get to that.
So Ruined Sparkling City. So I don't actually know the song, the actual song here, because this game never got a soundtrack that I know of. But it's a overclocked remix called Rosenthorne, and it's a remix of some dungeon music from The Guardian Legend, an old game on the NES that guessing not everyone listening or everyone on this panel knows about. So I will talk about what it is after. So let's go listen. Heard of it. Yeah, let's go listen to Ruined Sparkling City from Legend of Mana and the Rosenthorne OC remix from The Guardian Legend.
So, Ruined Sparkling City is a theme that plays in a city, so you'd think it would be a town theme, but it is not, because the town is abandoned and the only life there are enemies, really. And it leads to a boss fight, so technically it qualifies more as a dungeon.
Yeah.
And it is like my favorite storyline in Legend of Mana culminates there, and just I think this really kind of like is easy to picture if you listen to the song. So the story is about a bunch of jewel warriors who have been hunted throughout the years because they have these jewel cores, and it's very difficult to harm them while they have their cores. They can get scratched, but they're pretty invincible with the cores. But if their cores get taken, they die.
No.
Basically. And there's a jewel thief in Legend of Mana running around taking Jumai cores, and you work with this mouse detective guy. Like, he's like one of the most more whimsical characters in the game for one of the saddest plot lines. Yeah, you work with him and you track down the jewel thief, and you learn about the kind of hierarchy in the city where, like, there's one person whose role it is in the society to heal the other jewel warriors, but she can't anymore. Her tears were supposed to have healing properties, but she can't cry anymore. Very, very like depressing, kind of storyline. But you help them ultimately, and this is where it all goes down. But it's just a really, really pretty track, kind of capturing the lost grandeur and the sparkle of this fabulous jewel city that's kind of fallen into ruin. So that's the backdrop, and I think if there's one reason I chose this song, it's because it's a dungeon theme that kind of captured the setting so well, which is why I went on about that. But I love the instrumentation. I love the interplay between the strings and the kind of like music boxy thing you have going on with the repeating phrases. I just think the phrasing and the instrumentation really, really contribute to the atmosphere. So I want to point that out. In my notes, I said that the different parts, each part's like a gem, expertly set in a piece of fine jewelry. And then I realized that was probably inappropriate given the story.
No.
But
it's both inappropriate and appropriate, though.
Yes.
It does work. It's just sad.
But I also wanted to showcase unique dungeons that have kind of a different feel, because a lot of the times, like I sort of alluded to, your expectation is, okay, I need to fight my way through here. You know, you're expecting kind of vaguely, maybe mysterious, but mostly kind of like dangerous and kind of high energy music to fight your way through. And this is
something
not
bombastic.
that. Yeah, this is the opposite of bombastic. This is very somber. This is like, oh, something bad happened here.
Honestly, Shimomura is so good at that, though.
Yep.
The piano and the strings in this song are lovely. It's like I haven't played Legend of Mana yet. It's been on my list for ages because I love the soundtrack. And this definitely is helping sell it.
I mean, this track is it's very powerful.
Have you played the game, Audra?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
But it makes me want to play it.
Uh-huh.
I'm the only one that's played it.
I've played some of it, but no, I haven't gotten here yet, right?
Oh no.
I guess I'd remember.
You would.
I've listened to the soundtrack so much, okay? I know I've heard the song.
You met two of the Jumai.
I have met two of the Jumai.
Actually, three.
It's got kind of a sense of desolation to it that I really appreciate.
It does, and it's sort of like, I think a lot of what contributes to that is going back and forth between this very pretty kind of melancholy melody and just the sort of pizzicato-y notes and the repeated phrases, the do 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 do.
I think this is in my notes, but yeah, it's one of those songs that I feel like is evocative just based on its name. Like before you even hear it, like it tells you, it's like, okay, I get the sense that like this is going to be something special, as if I haven't been listening to the song for years.
This is actually a pretty well loved song.
Yeah, which is why it was actually on the show before, but it was a different version that was on the show, and also that was in episode 17, so I definitely give you a pass.
Thank you.
We don't always repeat songs, but I'm like, okay, that was almost 100 episodes ago, and it was another arrangement,
different
so
version.
We can bring it on.
I think by this point, we can cut it some slack.
Yeah. Maybe that should just be the rule from now on. Like, if it's been more than like 75 episodes, like it's it's free game. Whatever.
All
you
right,
want.
so time to do a whole episode of One Winged Angel remixes.
I actually don't remember which episode that was on, even though I'm sure it's happened at some point.
I don't either. I feel like it has to have.
Wow, that's a lot of Final Fantasy VII.
It was on. I actually always have the spreadsheet up when we're recording, just in case.
Oh, there you
go. It was on episode 32, but actually only kind of as like a gag, not the full song. So actually, it's never been on the show.
You don't say.
Yeah, go figure. All right, someone's got to bring that Advent Children version on, please.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of retreading a little bit here, but the strings and the piano notes here in this song, just like they add this air of mystery and melancholy, and that's something that Shimomura is just so good at. And Peter, I see you over there thinking of Kingdom Hearts music. Because there's that style and that like emotion, like there's a lot of that in Kingdom Hearts too, because she's just great at that.
Oh yeah, it really is. Like, yeah, Shimomura has a real knack for that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's a good start today. And now I have a weird one. So the Guardian Legend is it's just a weird game. And I thought I brought it on at some point. Apparently I haven't until today.
Were you thinking Grand Blue Fantasy? Because I think you brought Grand Blue on.
No, I don't know anything about Grand Blue Fantasy, except that I want to play the new one. I don't know. Somewhere, sometime, I've talked about Guardian Legend, or at least I planned on bringing it, but I never have.
Maybe that was it.
So, I don't know. So anyway, so it's a game for the NES made by Compile. That was before they became Compile Heart and make very different kind of games now. But it was something, and it was made by Compile and then published by Irem in Japan. But over here it was published by Broderbund, which at the time I mostly knew as the publishers of Print Shop and like productivity software for computers. But they also published a bunch of games on the NES. Unless I'm really mistaken, I think they're the ones that published Legacy of the Wizard on the NES, which was a Falcom game. So they just, I would actually really love to know their story in the 80s, like how they found these games and chose to bring them over, because I feel like some of the games they brought over were not really coming out here.
Sounds like a topic for a bitmap book or something.
I know. Anyway, so I don't know how to describe Guardian Legend, because it's a top-down sort of it's sort of an action RPG, because like you upgrade your health and your weapons, and there's a whole bunch of different sub-weapons you find, and all of those can be upgraded. So I don't remember if it's exactly an experience system, but there's a progression. And then it's a sort of open world where you can kind of just find your way around and go where you want, within reason. Like there's certain keys you'll need to like access different parts of the map and to get to some dungeons, but a lot of dungeons you don't need certain keys. You can just go in and maybe you won't be ready for certain dungeons, but yeah. It's just neat because like the main exploration, you're on foot and you're this girl who turns into a jet, because why not? So when you're on foot, you shoot, and you have different sub-weapons that like, maybe they'll shoot a bigger bolt of something, or you have lightsabers, or a double lightsaber, which is always my favorite. And all of those same sub-weapons you can use in dungeons, except in dungeons, you turn into a jet, and they're like a top-down old-school shooter. So it's like two totally different styles of gameplay, but your weapon systems carry throughout. And like everything is like aquatic, so like everything's like kind of like fish-based enemies and weird-looking alien creatures. But it has great music. It's just, I have no idea if I'm selling anyone on this, because I know it sounds very strange, but it's a really interesting like blend of like top-down action RPG and shooter-based dungeons with like cool weapons.
That sounds really unique. It
is. I've never played anything like it since then. I don't imagine we'll ever get like a remaster or sequel or anything, but it's something that my brother and I played when we were really young, and it just always stuck with me as a really unique kind of experience. So that's the big setup as to the for the game itself. But the game has really catchy music, and I like the original a lot. Like the original soundtrack is a lot of fun, and this is one of those remixes that is not. They did not try to capture the same sound or feel of the original, because it's definitely a much more chill acoustic version of some of the dungeon themes. But I've always liked this one. Like, this is an OC remix that I've had for, I don't know, however long ago it came out, in like the early 2000s. I found it, and it's always been a favorite of mine since then. And, you know, because it's so different, because it's more of acoustic than like the higher energy. It's not one of those arrangements I think you could like put back into the game. Like, you wouldn't want to play the game to this, but that's okay. I still like the melody, and it's a lot of fun and catchy. And that towards the end, there's like that soft sort of whistle or strings. I mean, it's all synthesized as far as I know, but just those sounds that close it out. I love the way it comes to a close at the end.
Yeah, it sounds like some approximation of pizzicato, so like pluck strings.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I made a note of specifically that too. So, and yeah, I would not have guessed shooter when hearing this. So I think actually the first thing I thought of was like Kikuta and some of the mana music.
Oh, okay.
It has that same kind of like flowy melody and back and forth between the different parts, and some of the repeating like winds and sort of guitars that go back and forth. It's a nice counter melodies. I enjoyed it a lot, and it's a mix of like 4 different locations. Like it's several locations, isn't it?
No, I wish I had the page up. I can't remember if it's a mix of 4 or it's a song that's just played in multiple dungeons.
Yeah, okay.
But both of those statements could be accurate.
Okay, because I thought I saw like stage 3, 7, 8 something.
Yeah, I just every like stage doesn't have fully unique music.
So it could just be the music is from these. This song is in these stages.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I mean, having not known anything about the game it's associated with, I really enjoyed that piece. It was a great song to listen to.
It's catchy. It's very chill. I think we picked this first block is very mellow, and I appreciated that.
The mellow dungeon music.
Yeah, that was
sometimes you just need some little bit of dungeon ambiance, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad that's what you got, because that was exactly how I built it. Also, I did look it up just to confirm, but yes, Roterbund did publish Guardian Legend: Legacy of the Wizard by Falcom. The Battle of Olympus, which was another weird NES game that I think I liked, and also Deadly Towers, but you know, they can't all be winners.
How dare we forget that they're responsible for the old Carmen Sandiego PC games.
Oh yeah, that too.
Ooh.
Oh, what do you know?
Oh yeah, Carmen Sandiego, Prince of Persia. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Myst, which I knew, but I wasn't going to say because
did they publish Myst? Just the first one? Okay, cool.
I can't remember if they published Riven too.
Yeah.
I know they published Myst.
Yeah. Oh man. Let's not talk about Deadly Towers though. Okay. Yeah, so that was our mellow block. Our next block, and you'll never guess how I decided to pair these two up. There's a theme in the next 2 songs. Let's see if you can figure it out. I took the names off. Audra has our first one, right?
Oh yeah, and that is Steel Fortress from The Legend of Heroes: Trails into Reverie.
Okay, all right. Now, I think people will figure out the theme with this next one. Peter, what's our next song?
Our next song after that is Geo-Front from The Legend of Heroes: Trails from Zero.
Now I get it. All right. Let's go listen to our Trails block with Steel Fortress and Geo-Front.
Falcom, go!
Well, Steel Fortress, to me, it's an awesome dungeon theme. I kind of love it. Has more of the bombastic feel I kind of associate with the whole, it's kind of close to the final dungeon area. You're getting pumped for those boss fights, and in Trails into Reverie, you're separated into two groups, and you're doing all these different puzzles to figure out how to reconnect everyone, and it's a really good song for just keeping your blood pumped and getting ready for that final push.
That's interesting, because in my notes, I was actually curious. I was like, is this some sort of endurance dungeon? Because it has a very cold, kind of like metallic feel.
Yes, it is actually.
To it, but it also has that, like, it seems like the aim is to just kind of like sustain that high energy, and it makes total sense to me that this is one of those dungeons where you're doing a bunch of puzzles to bring the party back together.
Yeah.
Wow, you picked up on that just from the music?
Was my best guess.
Sounds like a good guess.
That is pretty good, actually.
I mean, I didn't guess the party back together part, but I was like, this is an endurance dungeon of some kind.
Yes. It is a trial of endurance. But I think the music works for that, so it all comes together perfectly.
It does. It's really high energy, and I really like the kind of the synthier parts of it, like when it really kicks into high gear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Falcom's just so good at that. Like, they blend musical styles really well.
Yeah.
And they're always good at keeping it super upbeat.
Yeah. So people are going to get mad at me here. No, I like the song. I like the electric guitar and the crunchy synthy sounds and how they overlap. I think the synthy part is a little weird because some of it is like, I don't know. I still haven't figured out how to describe it. It doesn't sound as crisp as the guitar and some other parts, which I realize is probably exactly the point, where like some instruments sound more clear than the others. But there's just a couple times in the song where I'm listening. I'm like, you got this like really nice, like loud and clear guitar, and then it sounds like someone's like playing the synth part on like their laptop speakers somewhere in the background. It's an interesting blend how they come together. I would just like, I don't know, I honed in on that a little too much, and I'm like, what's happening there? It's odd. I don't mind it, but it's odd.
I can see that. I think they tried blending two kind of very unique styles together.
Yeah.
In that way, and
it's like, it's not quite industrial.
It's sort of the area is kind of like a futuristic type area. Okay. So it almost, so kind of industrial actually fits for how it is presented.
Oh, maybe I should have paired that with my Secret of Mana track. That's futuristic. Anyway, sorry. Were you going to say something?
Oh, geez. I was going to say, maybe that's how I arrived at, like, that's sort of how I got the steel vibes from it, because it was the contrast between the harsh crispness and the kind of crunchy background.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's definitely interesting to consider, like, how important, like, mixing is when it comes to music and audio and stuff. I think that's something a lot of people like don't really pick up on all the time. But like once you notice something like that, it really sticks in your brain.
And you hone in on it. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure they could have done that in a number of different ways. You know, they could have dulled that contrast a little bit and had everything blend a little bit more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, please don't get me wrong. I'm not getting down on the song. It was just like just this one aspect.
That's
like,
what you noticed.
Yeah, it just kind of caught me.
But there's almost like it's almost out of place in the dungeon itself is kind of bizarre. So that, in a way, it actually makes sense.
I see. Yeah. Like you're the one here with the oh my god, what's
Reverie?
the word? What?
Experience?
Reverie experience. With the context of having played the dungeon.
Yeah.
Context is the word.
Yes. It is a good word. It's actually not a complicated word. It just escaped my brain for a few seconds. So, I mean, I'm way too far. Like, I would like to play these games one day, but I also know how important the plot is. So there's no way I could even play this one. I play everything leading up to it.
Yeah.
And Peter was just saying, like, between our blocks here that he's played a couple, but that still means he's like 6 games away from this. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit. These games are long.
Yeah.
They are time sinks.
So thank you, Audra, for playing it and reviewing it and bringing the song on.
You're welcome.
All right. Is it time to jump into the sewers?
All right. Sewer dungeon time. My favorite. Well, okay. Technically speaking, the Geo-Front isn't really a sewer dungeon, but it is a system of corridors underneath like the main hub city in Crossbell. So sewer dungeon. But it's actually the first dungeon in the game, and it's one you return to throughout the experience. And I actually didn't even first hear this in Crossbell because of the weird release order of the Kiseki games. It actually gets a reprise at the end of Cold Steel 2 that was really... But, no, what I really like about this song, though, is it's got a really kind of just... I don't want to say jazzy, per se, but it's very energetic, very upbeat. I really like the... what are those, like, wind flutes that are playing at the beginning of it? It really gives it kind of a authentically Japanese feel to the song. And then the way everything just kind of picks up at the end, where the whole thing just kind of crescendos, is like it's a toe tapper. I can't really say it any other way than that. I really appreciated this song.
Yeah, I've pretty much loved every rendition of Geo-Front I've heard. It's just a really good song.
And that's one of the things I was going to ask you too, actually, was like, I got the impression that this is a location or something that comes up in multiple games. So I'm glad I had that question answered.
Yep, it comes in quite a lot. Most recently in Reverie.
It's a pretty big part of that setting, yeah.
Does every game have a different arrangement for the song? Or is it like repeat sometimes? Okay.
No, we know there are at least a few different renditions, because Cold Steel 2 and...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was really excited when I first started listening to this because I was like, do I detect a funk beat? I think there's a little bit of a funk beat. I was really happy.
Oh, there really is, yeah.
And I appreciated the contrast and the differences in dynamics. Like, there was a minimal piano section, and I was like, yes, it's okay. We have some loud and we have some quiet. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think we mentioned this earlier, but like that is something that Falcom really excels with. Is having those different, almost disparate musical styles and making them sound cohesive. Like this, because this thing's got like, you know, this combination of like these like kind of snappy percussion and finger snaps and the wind flutes and all this other stuff, and it still manages to sound like it all fits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I like the melody in this one a lot. It's. I actually wrote down that's funky before I knew that you were mentioning funk in your notes, Hilary. And it moves along at a nice pace and it has interesting instrumentation. And I get this sense of this energetic theme, even though I haven't played the game. I like just this like energetic industrial sound.
I actually had in my notes, like, I would be interested to know how this is a dungeon, because I think this one sort of fits into the not exactly unexpected dungeon music, but it's not like, yeah, we're fighting.
True.
So, and I also just recently learned what a Geo-Front is, which is like an underground addition to a city. So I was like, okay, so is the Geo-Front like a dungeon attached to the city, or is it part of the city that leads to a dungeon? Or
it is pretty much that. It's basically a system of tunnels underneath Crossbell that occasionally needs cleaning out from monster infestations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some weird stuff will go on there.
Yeah. Yep. So your tutorial / first mission in Trails from Zero is going into the Geo-Front and taking care of some monsters while also learning how the combat system works. And it's a very good blend of that. And then the bit where it plays in Cold Steel 2, I won't get into specifics because it's very spoilery, but you're essentially retreating into the Geo-Front because you're trying to get to a point in Crossbell City faster.
Huh?
So like, I'm taking it. Okay, we'll cut through the Geo-Front to get to this location before it's too late, kind of thing.
So the many moods of the Geo-Front based on what's going on in the story.
It's got vibes.
The many moods of the Geo-Front.
I don't know.
Okay.
A novel by Hilary Andreff.
Are we going novel, or are we going like 90s like
yes, 90s album advertisement?
Yeah, because I can see the album art.
Yep.
It's actually a self-help podcast. You can guess on Audible.
No, I was definitely going like cheesy 90s album, so thank you.
Okay. Oh boy. All right. Well, we made it. We made it to the halfway point.
Glad we got the Falcom out of our systems, guys.
Let's go to our next block, which is, well, more futuristic-like things. At least that's the impression I got from the the second song here. But the first song in the next block is Leave Time for Love from Secret of Mana. This is actually from the Secret of Mana Genesis Arrange album, which I don't think is featured on the show before. So, yeah. So that's my other retro pick today. And then after that, Audra has her second song,
which is Stella Nursery from HARVESTELLA.
Yay, HARVESTELLA.
HARVESTELLA, yeah.
That game deserves more love.
It does.
It does.
That game deserves a soundtrack to be released outside of Japan, at least.
I'm sure we'll go into that.
Oh, we'll go into it. It's in my notes. But in the meantime, we need to leave time for love and visit the Stella Nursery. All right, so I have a bunch of notes about the song here, about Leave Time for Love, but we were talking off air about the prefix, because on this arrangement album, every song still has its name from the original soundtrack, but they all got a prefix. So this one is Secrets, Leave Time for Love. And I don't really know why some of them are named what they are. Together Always got Friends, Together Always. That works. I'm not really sure why, Prophecy. Some of the prefixes are just a little bit weird. Still of the Night got Ballads. Works. I don't know. Danger has the prefix of Avengers. I don't know. So why Leaving Time for Love is a secret, I cannot tell you. I can tell you it's one of my favorite Final Dungeon songs of anything in the Super Nintendo era. And the fact that it's never been on the show was a little surprising to me. Although we every time I look at our database, Secret of Mana has not appeared on the show as much as I always think it had. I thought it was a good time to bring it on. So what I did not know coming into this episode, and I think it depends on the community. I was looking at VGMDB and some other places, and it's one of those ones where I was shocked that there was a discussion like 4 or 5 pages long about this album. And I guess not everyone loves this album. And I think it seems to stem from the fact that it's sort of a light arrangement. Like, it's not what you would normally expect from an arrangement album, because it's not really rearranged. It's sort of just re-recorded with different instrumentation or even like newer synthesized, instruments. So I like most of it. I think it's one of those things where the expectation of like, oh, this is like a fancy new arrangement album. Like, you brought on Legend of Mana, but that Promises arrangement album of that game is incredible.
And very different.
Very different. And a lot of arrangement albums, they tend to be different. So this is more of it's almost like an updated take on it.
Yeah, and even during the Super Nintendo era, like, you did get serious arrangements. Like, there were the vocal Final Fantasy albums. There were, Suikoden had like Celtic and like,
oh yeah,
jazzy. So like, there were, expectations were high that arrangements would be significantly different, probably.
Yeah, I really think just naming it that maybe did a disservice, because I don't think there were some like translated. I read some comments by Kikuta, and it's like, it wasn't really meant to be like a rearrangement. It really was like, hey, I'm re-recording this, like, just to basically add more to it, like add more depth to it or whatever. And I think that's fine. I think if you don't expect it to be an arrangement album, I think it's okay. So it's really just a slightly different take on a lot of this music, and I enjoy it. In fact, I had to listen to this and the original one a lot to decide which one to bring, and it's kind of a toss-up. It's not a huge difference between the two, but ultimately I wanted to bring this because I just think the album itself is interesting in that it's a different kind of arrangement album than you get a lot of times. As for the song, this is one of those, as I put in my notes, it's one of those classic RPG things where you get blindsided by a new setting. In this case, a monster-filled, basically spaceship, which is obviously not something you experienced in this game up until that point. There is like little bits of technology and stuff like in this world, but certainly nothing like the last dungeon. Like, it's completely different from everything else. Right.
Up until now, you're launching yourself out of, low-tech devices like cannons.
That's true. Yeah. How do you get around? You get this like really frightening looking dude shoving you into a cannon and firing you across the world.
Oh, don't disrespect the Cannon Brothers.
I'm not disrespecting. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't instill a lot of confidence. When you walk up, it's like, okay, I'm already a little nervous about this whole thing where you're going to send me to the next town by firing me from a cannon. But like, the fact that you're just standing there jumping around with your, 3-foot long hair, and is this supposed to be like goggles, or why does he have like those big white eyes?
There are either glasses or goggles. Yeah.
It's like, it just seems a little unhinged.
Can I have some goggles? Maybe?
Yeah,
no?
Right? Yeah, why can't we get goggles? I don't know. Yeah.
But so you get to do a cool flip.
There you go.
But not much technology.
You were launched from cannons, then all of a sudden, oh wait, there's basically a spaceship that can fly around. So yeah, it's a little more high tech than you're used to. Anyway, I don't know. All of my notes talked about the arrangement and the fact that it's totally different aesthetic from the rest of the game, and just the energy of it. And I've always liked it because this song feels different from every other dungeon and every other thing in the game, and that works very well because the dungeon itself and everything that's going on is totally different from the rest. So it's a cool twist and just change of setting towards the end.
Yeah.
And also it's just exciting. Like, there's, like we've talked about, there's all kinds of dungeon music, and there's different ways that composers do to, like, get your blood flowing and make you excited. But like this one is one of my favorite, like just really, really like high energy. Like it's an exciting dungeon. Like it's scary and the monsters are strong, but mostly it's exciting. And I enjoy that.
You're also strong at that point. And I think that comes through in the music a little bit.
Yeah. You're strong, and then also, like, there's so much, like, there are things you get in that dungeon, even though you're at the very end, like weapon orbs and some other stuff that you don't get up until that point. Yep. So, like, you actually keep getting stronger even there.
Yeah. Secret of Mana is a soundtrack I'm very familiar with. It was one of the first 2 soundtracks that I actually bought.
Me too.
Yay.
Wait, was your other one Final Fantasy VI?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
What was the other one?
The Valkyrie Profile Range album.
Oh, nice.
So it was those 2, and then it was Final Fantasy VI Grand Finale and Chrono Cross. It was like 2 sets of 2 in pretty quick succession.
Okay.
But anyway, I always did really admire this piece because it was able to convey that sort of like, yep, all these foretold events are coming to pass, and you have to stop the Mana Fortress, and things are getting very exciting and serious, but also have it fit in with the rest of the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I always thought that was really impressive. And, it's a pretty high energy soundtrack for, the exploration and dungeon themes. And the fact that it also conveys that sort of like last push is pretty great too. I think talking about Genesis, I think you're right to describe it more as like a remaster?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely what it is. And some of it, well, I like it more than some of the remastered tracks for the more recent version of Secret of Mana we got.
I actually completely forgot they remastered the soundtrack for that game. Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah.
But it's a little hit or miss for me, but I like this one a lot because that original, like, that song was almost like overstimulating for me. There was just so much high fluty stuff going on, and I think this remastering of it kind of actually toned that down just enough that I can really appreciate the song all the more. So
yeah,
this is my first time hearing it, and I just kind of love it. So it's definitely
it's really
a good song. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I mean, I recommend the game. It's not actually, it's one of those RPGs. I don't think it does have a clock. I actually don't know how long it is, but it's I think on the shorter side. So I do recommend it. I would probably recommend the original or is it on PC? I don't remember if they put it on PC or just on mobile. But if you can play the original, not the remaster, you're probably better off.
It's part of the collection, right?
Oh yeah,
it's in the collection.
Yeah, there it is. Right,
on Switch. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's how I play it.
Mm-hmm. And it's co-op.
Yes.
Oh.
So that is its big distinguishing feature, I think, during its time, is that it was co-op. You could have up to 3 people.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably one of the reasons my brother and I played it so much, because it was one of the few RPGs we actually could play together. So I did look up that discussion, by the way, and admittedly, this is from a comment from 2012, and this is someone posting on VGMDB, but apparently the idea was that Kikuta remade his original MIDI files with today's virtual instruments. So, like, that was always the concept.
Right, so kind of a remaster.
Yeah. Anyway, if anyone can hear the child in the hallway, we are sorry.
It's all good, man.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
Hope everything's kosher.
Someone has a lot to say today.
Yeah, someone does have a lot to say today. Yeah, it's not tantruming, it's just yelling.
Yeah.
It's not upset or dangerous shouting. It's just shouting.
Yeah. Someone's upset that they haven't been to the nursery yet.
Oh.
Oh. Transitions.
The Stella Nursery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that took me a moment. I'm sorry.
That's
We're
okay.
okay. Ah.
Yes, Stella Nursery is. Well, I've loved Go Shiina's work ever since I've heard the God Eater soundtracks, and I was just really happy that they worked on the HARVESTELLA album. It's the soundtrack in general is really good for HARVESTELLA, and I really loved the Stella Nursery, the energy of it. It's, I guess you'd say, post-game kind of dungeon. It's just, it has a very good feel for that kind of energy, and you're powerful, your characters are powerful, your party's going through on a time limit, because the game had a time limit, and it's a very good energy song.
Yeah, honestly, so I have not played HARVESTELLA yet. It's another game that's on my list because it came out during that period where Square was throwing everything at the wall, like from 2021 to this year, where they had so many games coming out that it's just impossible to keep up. And I think, much as I was really happy to see them releasing a bunch of mid-budget stuff, it was like they were like talking about how disappointing like the sales were. And it's like, yeah, you think? No one has time to play all this stuff. What the heck is a Diofield Chronicle?
I don't understand why they shoved so much out last fall, like in such quick succession. Like it's the time and money thing, you know?
Yeah, it's like there's only so much time in the day and so much money to spend on games, and some of these games were, not all of them were great, but some of them were hidden gems, and HARVESTELLA is really one of them. This song is really epic, Audra. I really love the chorus in the background.
Yes.
And kind of fitting with our space theme, this actually kind of reminds me of Star Ocean. Like, I don't think it sounds like Sakuraba per se, but it definitely has that same kind of vibe.
It has some of the Sakuraba elements.
Yeah.
There's definitely a sci-fi
yeah.
twist to that whole dungeon area in general.
Yeah, it's like if Sakuraba knew how to compose more than 2 songs.
Oh. Hold on.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. That was mean.
Okay, hey, did you not listen to the Jazz and Funk episode? Because he did jazz.
I did not listen to the Jazz and Funk episode, actually, so I will rectify that after this recording.
I'll admit I used to say stuff like that all the time, and that was before I read about how whenever he would do a Tales soundtrack, his notes from Bandai Namco were like, yeah, make it sound exactly like all the other games. So I'm like, well, I can't fault him for that.
It's not really his fault. And to also be fair, he also did Resonance of Fate, and that game's soundtrack bops. So
he's also done some Souls soundtracks, and those are very different.
He does the Dark Souls soundtracks.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
I know no one talks about that. I didn't know about it for years because it just never comes up for some reason.
Mostly, I'm just baffled at how much music he puts out.
Yeah,
dude's prolific.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got off topic, and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But I really enjoyed the HARVESTELLA song. I think. Again, the chorus, the way everything kind of just builds up, like it was a very dramatic dungeon song.
Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely have in my notes that it's very, very busy, very dramatic. I may have actually written, is this the death season?
Oh yes, Somnus.
Right.
Because that's the thing that happens in that game,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which also always makes me think of the novels. If you haven't read the 5th season, it's a really good book.
And as soon as HARVESTELLA was announced,
you knew it was gonna. Yep.
Yeah, when that game was announced, I'm like, oh yeah, like it's like this farming sim RPG blend, and there's a 5th season of Death, and you were like, wait a minute, I've read that book already.
I think I have that on my shelf, actually.
No, it's
really?
different. It's different.
No, I know it's different, but it was interesting that I had no idea. I'd never heard of it before.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny because the title's very fitting. Like I also wrote, it does make me sort of picture like clashing matter and a nebula a little bit, like not necessarily like kind of violent, but also kind of pretty.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a good way to describe it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we looked up some screenshots because I've played the demo so far. Certainly not to the end of the game, but I'm like, yeah, this is a really cool looking place. Well, I won't won't harp on this too long, especially because I already did this in episode 101. But yes, I'm still sad this album is available in digital form in Japan, like on iTunes even, but not, well, I don't know if it's not available anywhere outside of Japan, but it's certainly not available here. And it's so weird. It's such a strange thing to like, especially when you have like famous composers that this does not have a soundtrack that you can even just import on CD or even just buy a digital version here.
Right. It'd be, I mean, especially digitally, it would just be like an easy way to make more money off the soundtrack.
I know. Bizarre.
And have people happily able to listen to Goshina.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I guess it seems like it's a little easier to find right now as of this recording. I know last time, like when the game came out and when we did episode 101, like trying to even find the stuff on YouTube, I'm sure it got.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure they were.
I remember that.
I'm sure they were like, Square was having them pull it and all that, and normally I understand that. I understand that to a point where like, well, this is copyrighted and we want people to buy it, but you can't buy it. Yeah. So like, I was like, I wanted to listen to it, but it was so hard to find. But I don't know. I think the video that you found here was like posted like a month or two ago. So I don't know. I hope it stays up long enough so people can listen to it until maybe you can officially acquire it.
Me too.
But that aside, what a cool song. The name did not prepare me for this song with like such high stakes piano and choir, and it's. I think Hilary, you're the first one that said it. Like it's a lot. Like it's a lot of things going on here, but it's really really cool.
Well, there's definitely a lot going on at that point.
Yeah.
When you reach it, so it kind of just it makes sense. It's like a crescendo.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, because we were curious what it was, so we looked it up, and yes, Hilary, I stole your note. Well, you didn't say it.
No,
I thought you would mention it, but like when we were talking about it, I was like, wow, this sort of feels like or Hilary said that it sort of feels like a Seraphic Gate, like Tri-Ace style big dungeon at the end of the game.
So I too sort of made the Sakuraba comparison a little bit.
Yeah, and then we looked at it, and I'm like, yeah, I can see it. So it's post game. Is it optional or how's it work?
Well, you have an ending to the game where you can actually get a secret ending that opens up like a final dungeon.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, depending on what you choose to respond to certain questions that are asked of the main character.
Oh, I see.
And so this is the one that opens up after that.
Okay. Yeah, it's like we said, like there were so many games that Square released late last year, to say nothing about just the fact that there's too many games, period. But I definitely would like to get into this. I have it. Like when the demo came out,
it's a good game.
I was really, really into playing that demo because it was long. Like it let you play for several hours.
Which is nice.
So yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought it on. That was a fun choice.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
I'm happy I got to share it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun listen.
Are we ready to go save some birds?
Yes. I'm always ready to go save some birds.
I know you are. So of course you picked this song.
Yeah, of the entire Terra Enigma soundtrack. So what could be better in a dungeon than rescuing some birds? And wait a minute, okay, good. This is my one.
It is yours.
I wanted to make sure
that's why I set it up that way.
Okay. So the song I picked is Brickcliff from Terra Enigma, and that is in fact the dungeon where you go to save and bring birds back to the empty world.
The noble quest.
Yep.
All right. And Peter, you have our technically last track today.
Yeah, and so my pick for this block is Mortal Instance from the Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers OST.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so happy you brought this one.
Oh my god, it was such a hard choice, but yeah, this is one of my favorites.
Yeah. All right.
It's got many callbacks to one of my favorite, I think, Shadowbringers melodies.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go listen to Great Cliff and Mortal Instance.
So, my selection for this dungeon song is an unofficial selection, and that's sort of out of necessity, actually, because there isn't really a good collection of the official soundtrack for Terra Enigma.
I mean, there wasn't the soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really like this arrangement album, and I know you do too, Mike, because you picked Elle's theme, right?
I think it was Elle's theme. Yeah, it was on episode 109.
Oh yeah.
But I was really pleased. Like in the game, this track is almost a little jarring because there's a lot of that contrast. There's like a very high wind part that kicks in immediately, and then there's a low part. So like that contrast was, I think, kind of tested the limits a little bit in the original sound version. It could be kind of grating sometimes, especially at the very beginning with the like high pitch. But this arrangement actually blends everything really beautifully, and I think it has some really nice smooth transitions between the different segments of the song, which is great. And also something that I appreciate in my dungeon themes when they have kind of discrete sections. You know, it's not just the same melody over and over. You have, you know, like a reprieve or a B section or something. And actually a lot of quintet games do that. They use that structure where their dungeon themes usually have two different segments that they cycle through. This one I think is even more than that. I could say it has 3 or 4. But it's also very pretty. I think musically it really does kind of evoke like high windswept cliffs, which is neat. And also traversing up them, I think like the drums and the lower register does that. So, and it's a hard dungeon. I think some of that comes across too. It's not the easiest spot in the game.
I mean, it's late. I don't know if it's late game, but it's later in the game at least.
It's like...
No?
Later. It's kind of mid-late.
Okay.
Because you beat the towers, and then you have to restore the various, you know, plants, animals, birds. And then there's a whole wild, like, almost graphic adventure segment where you have to progress the world by trading things among the different nations, and so you have to accelerate human progress.
Oh yeah.
So it's like in the second segment of the game, I'd say, when you're first restoring the world, but it's like halfway through that.
Gotcha.
And I have to mention, aside from being where you resurrect birds, which is awesome, this dungeon is technically in my birthplace, which is really exciting.
That's true.
Wait, really?
They randomly decided that the spot to resurrect birds, and they specifically say this in the game. They could have picked any state, but no, specifically Colorado.
Nice.
What do you know?
Oh, wow.
That's rad.
Did you
The song is really ominous.
Yeah.
It is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's
No.
okay. Go ahead.
It is. It's sort of like mostly ominous with like little bursts of gusts of kind of a reprieve from that, I think. And that really is the mood for a lot of these dungeons. You have to work to restore these different parts of the world. Like,
Yeah, it's like you are plumbing the depths.
they're
Try and
long and
find
involved.
what you can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you know I like this album because I talked about it 6 episodes ago. So I'm not going to get into that again, but it's still one of those projects that I think is just really cool that one person went through and was like, well, I'm gonna rearrange all this.
Yes, thank you.
I'm like, however many songs it is, and it's like,
It's a lot.
it is a lot. But yeah, I mean, I went into it a little more in episode 109, so I would direct people there for like my general thoughts on the album. But it's a cool project, and I'm glad it exists, especially because there was no actual soundtrack. But for this song, like those like synthy wind instruments are just the stars to me. Like those and the bass line, just it all comes together. And I like why'd I write airiness like that? Those aren't 2 different words. Airiness. But like the airiness of the song, like for this like cliff dungeon, it's a cliff. It is a cliff. Or like there are cliffs.
Yep. It's a series of like cliffs and caves and
Yeah, I mean, just like it fits that setting so well, and you get this like good sense of adventure, and the rising like windy notes also gives you the sense of like scaling a high place, which you are, and all of that is still true of the original song, and like that is how the original song sounded. And I don't remember the exact words I said about this album before, but this album, this arrangement is always like so many of the songs feel like it's the same song. It's just richer. It's just a little bit richer than they did on the Super Nintendo, and I appreciate that. Oddly enough, I actually feel like it's slightly more arranged than the Secret of Mana stuff.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's similar. Like there's a little fuzzy line between them. Like this is very true to the original, but the instrumentation is just richer and fuller. And I think
they did a little bit with instrumentation, and obviously they had more options, you know, in terms of like the synths and voices. So
right.
But that richer sound really did this track favors, I think.
Yeah.
Like I said, it could almost get grating in the original, almost just because of that high contrast. But I think this fits it all together nicely.
Yeah. Well, it makes me want to play it again because I've only played through it once and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, this is my second song that I've heard from this album, and I really like it. I don't know how I haven't played the original soundtrack or heard the soundtrack since I haven't played the original game, but I really like the songs you've picked so far for this.
Oh, well, thank you.
The game's worth seeking out if
Yep.
you can find a means to play it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, right.
It's
I mean,
right. It's a little bit of a commitment. But
so a PAL Super Nintendo and cart because it released over there.
Mhm.
That's obviously what you meant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely what I meant.
Yeah.
I just hid my Steam Deck. You can't see it, but
I love really good like visual gags on an audio podcast. It always translates so well.
Yep.
I know, right?
Okay, I'm doing this thing now. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, you can't see me nodding to the responses on this podcast. It's like, dang it.
Yeah, that's the one drawback, and I try to be really aware of it. Well, not a drawback, but I try to be really aware of it when Hilary and I are doing a podcast together, because she'll be sitting here explaining something and I'll be nodding and I'm like, wait, no one else knows I'm doing that. So I need to actually just say, yes, good point, Hilary.
I mean, I'll take it
I know.
when it's earned.
Yes. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I would love for these three games to be re-released in some form, but
Remaster them, do something, please. I love them.
Weirder things have happened.
Until ActRaiser got remastered, I would have said it will never happen, and now who knows?
That first dungeon song in ActRaiser was almost on this podcast, by the way.
It was, yeah. But like, if ActRaiser can get remastered and if Moon can get released, like, you know what? I don't know anymore. Some publishers keep surprising us, so maybe one day it'll happen.
Getting an official re-release of Clock Tower.
Yeah, right?
Woo!
That's another big one.
Yeah, I'm so excited for it. I've always wanted to play Clock Tower, or at least watch Clock Tower.
Because you've played you just haven't played the original.
Correct.
You played what, the PS2 one? PS1?
I think it was 3 PS2.
I don't know.
Clock
3
Tower-
was PS2.
Yeah, okay, so PS2.
Okay.
That was the one that had multiple stalkers.
Yup.
Oh boy.
It's a creepy game.
A lot of fun though. Oh my gosh. My best high school buddy and I, we exploited the hell out of the fact that they would not get you if you were at a save fountain or whatever it is. So we'd just be like, okay, hold up stalker, hold up terrifying monster guy that's been chasing me around for the entire stage. I just need to be at this fountain for a minute. This is my moment. Go away.
It's like that video of Mr. X from the Resident Evil 2 remake, just kind of like pacing outside the door of the save room.
I mean, that is it's the exact same thing. The exact same thing.
Yeah.
Only a little more ridiculous because it's not a closed room in some cases.
Yeah.
Where did it go?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, goodness.
That game has some creepy ambiance and good sound design.
Oh, yeah.
From,
really
from the clips I've seen.
A lot of stuff just
We
hiding
gotta
in
do
the
another
shadows.
Halloween episode, too.
Yeah, we should. Is that right? A lot of stuff hiding in the shadows.
Yes?
Yeah.
You're trying to segue.
I was trying, but then Peter.
God, now it's my turn.
And then Peter's like, Halloween. I'm like, oh well.
Shadows Halloween.
Peter, are you going to dress up as Emmett Selk for Halloween?
You know what? That's actually a great cosplay idea. Let me jot this down. No, for real. Okay, yeah. So, going into Mortal Instance, this song is the final dungeon song from Shadowbringers. So if you consider that each Final Fantasy XIV expansion is essentially a self-contained entire JRPG in its own right, then Square has essentially released 5 absolute bangers in this series. And this final dungeon is important both thematically in the overall story, but also as just an emotional gut punch. And I won't get into specifics because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't gotten to that point yet, but you're essentially having, after several twists that kind of shake the foundation of the entire Final Fantasy XIV universe, you're now having the main antagonist of this story explain his tragic backstory to you in the form of a dungeon. And it's a really intense sequence. But what I particularly love about this song is its build-up. So what's really cool about this is that the entire area where this dungeon takes place is built around the same musical motif. So when you first get into the area, it's like this underwater section. You have this kind of twangy guitar version of that tune, and then you find like the abandoned ruins of this ancient city, and it changes to this like super somber piano version of that song. And then when you actually get into the dungeon, it's the same city, only now it's on fire, and there are these like horrible monsters like manifesting from people's worst nightmares, and it's that super dramatic version of it with the strings, and it's just, I love it so much. The build up to that moment is so good and so earned. And as an actual song too, I really love just the sort of haunting tragedy of the whole thing. Like, it's really dramatic, but you're basically seeing the downfall of a civilization in this moment, and it's really intense. I love especially the strings when it all kind of crescendos at the end. It's yeah, I could go on. The song is incredible.
That was so. You went right to the edge of like every possible spoiler, but didn't quite step over.
I see what you did there.
It was. Oh no! I actually wasn't trying to reference that, but thank you. That was actually that was unintentional. No, seriously. Like I'm like, oh boy, is he gonna? No.
This actually was very entertaining to watch Mike's face throughout this explanation, just kind of holding his breath, like, oh, he's going to spoil something.
I don't think he's. No, he said he wasn't going to. But
I know, I'm kidding.
It's so hard to talk about this without.
It is really hard to talk about this. But I have my partner and another friend of mine are both like got into FF14 this year, so I've been very good at talking around things.
Yeah, you have to learn that. No, you did well. Yeah. So the setting, let's see. What can I still say here in my notes that you didn't cover? The setting is intense. Yes. It's interesting that like some parts of the song almost sound triumphant a little bit, in like this motivational way, which I think if you listen to the song on its own, you might sort of get that. But once you know the song in context and hear it in the game, you would not get that sense. I was trying to listen to it like without thinking of the dungeon, and just, I don't know, I was trying to get the sense of like how someone would hear this song without knowing the context. And I don't know why I was trying to like think of it that way, given that we have 2 people here that don't know the context. So we'll hear how they feel about it. But you know, it's like Peter said, it's this like desperate struggle that you're going through, and it's just what they did in the last dungeon, actually, of Shadowbringers and Endwalker. Like they're so good at their final dungeons now, because they're not just a dungeon. Like the story they tell on them, and the mood and the setting and the music, it's just so much. I love the way. Oh, sorry.
No, please finish.
He almost went for the Endwalker one.
I almost went for the Endwalker one because there's a specific moment in that dungeon that is exactly that, where it's like there's a little story that's being told over the course of this, and the end of that story, if you know what I'm talking about, Mike, it's right after the second boss.
Yep.
Yeah, that bit. I was like, oh, dang. Like, yeah, it's so good. And yeah, that was almost my pick for this spot, but at the end of it, I had to go with the Shadowbringers one because it did it first.
I love that song. I almost would. If we brought it on the show, I'd almost want to bring it on with the audio from the game, because that's when
that
the voice clips are really what make some of those moments hit. But yeah, I mean, just this whole area is it's such a stunning. It's a spectacle, really. The entire dungeon is, and then like the last leg of it, I'm just like, all right, guys, just stop. Like, you've already won me over. And then you get to the end of it, and I'm like, okay, we're just going all the way here. But I love the way you described it, Peter. Like the fact that it does build on and shift the melody through that whole area and go to these different versions is just one of the reasons it's just so effective as a dungeon theme. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Hilary, I really need you to get back into the game.
I know.
And then catch up to Shadowbringers. And then
Okay.
I will do New Game Plus and play through it because I want to play through it again anyway.
I really love what I saw of Shadowbringers, so I want to get there.
Hopefully I didn't spoil you on too much.
No.
Okay.
No. So, okay. Is Full Fathom 5 the first version of that song?
I believe that's like the area. Yeah. I think,
Yes, it's Full Fathom 5, then Neath Dark Waters, then this.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I
have it in a playlist.
I love that motif.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. And I probably mentioned this on our 14 episode a long time ago, but they have a lot of Shakespeare names in Shadowbringers, like a ton of them, which I guess makes sense given Titania. But just hearing you all talk about this final sequence really made me realize how fitting that name is and kind of the depth that reference probably would have for me if I play through the whole thing.
Right.
Because the idea in the original song that's referencing is all about just kind of like the fading away and the decay. Someone's having to accept that their father has died and passed on, and like Ariel the air spirit is talking about how, you know, he's not fully dead, but he's transmutated under the sea, like there were pearls where his eyes were, and things like that. So I don't know, hearing you all talk about this and like the shifts and the things that the Warrior of Light learns that kind of completely change their worldview, it sounds like, that with all the stuff that happens in this dungeon, it sounds like it's that same sort of like major shift. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a few moments in Shadowbringers where your perspective of the world has changed a little bit.
But I think I can now appreciate how the song title actually kind of plays into that a little bit more. And I like how that's also reflected in like the reuse of that musical motif in a bunch of different ways to also illustrate that in a different way. So it's lots of reinforcement that I think probably maybe contributes to it being so full of impact. It sounds like.
It's a good way of putting it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I really wish I had more to say, but it's a very incredible piece.
I'm glad you liked it, Audra. Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't mean to like steal anybody's thunder. I kind of went off.
No, you didn't.
Oh, no.
You brought the song.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't steal any thunder. I still said what I was going to say, so.
Me too.
Yeah.
Wait, let me check. Was there any thunder stolen?
Nope.
Well, so we have to dodge 100 lightning bolts in a row.
Oh, jeez.
God, no, not again! Not again! At me as I'm dragged kicking and screaming into my personal video game hell.
Right.
Yeah, I did note, like, what you were saying about it sounding almost triumphant at times, not knowing what goes on. I did get that, because I see in my notes here the word grandiose at one point.
Yeah.
Which I guess could, you know, if this society was supposedly like very advanced or something, I guess grandiose could apply.
That. Mm-hmm. I mean, I mean, it's also grandiose. Also fits like the scale. Like, I mean, it's a huge city area. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. You know, I joked early on, Peter, like when you picked this, I'm like, oh man, you beat me to picking the 14 song. But like I said, like it really worked out for me because it meant I didn't have to. So I got to talk about 14 and bring 2 songs on. So I appreciate you bringing it.
Yeah, no, happy to help. I had so many options I could have gone with for this pick. Like it was like between the final Endwalker theme or A Long Fall was another option I was looking at because that song just slaps so hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one of my favorites. Had to do it.
So here's the plan. We somehow we somehow get another audio editor on the team, because we have not tried hiring one for a while, and because they've all gone away. And we get someone who just edits our 4th podcast, which is just Final Fantasy XIV. And then our 5th podcast, which is just Final Fantasy XIV music.
Wow. That's 2 more names.
I know. Look, there's like 1,000 songs, okay? Or however many songs there is now in 14. Like, we could keep going for a very long time before we repeat stuff.
I was just saying.
So, all right. Well, that is our dungeon episode. Thank all of you for being here. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, as always, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Love doing this.
Me too. It was nice to get back into it. So thanks for making it fun for me.
Thank you for having the idea.
Yeah. I don't know if it was my idea. Actually, who did make this card originally? This card has been on our board for Rhythm Encounter since 2014. Solosi actually made the card in 2014.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Solosi.
And a whole bunch of people who are not here anymore were going to be on it at one point, but I'm glad it finally happened.
Yeah.
Came and went.
Yeah. So as we always do at the end, I like talking about the games that made their debut on this episode, and surprisingly only 2 this time that had never been on Rhythm Encounter before, and those are The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie, so thank you, Audra, and The Guardian Legend, so thank you, me. That's a lot of legends. We had 2 legends that hadn't been on this show before.
I'm glad that's rectified.
Yeah. So if you've been listening to Rhythm Encounter the last couple episodes, when those were recorded, they were recorded so far in advance, we didn't have our like full upcoming slate planned out. So usually I'd like to talk about 2 here, but because we've let you go a while without telling you, I'll at least cover the next 3. So this has been Dungeon Themes. In a couple weeks at the end of August, we are doing our favorite PlayStation 1 music, which I think is going to be very popular. So I'm excited about that one. After that, one of our other top winners in our poll is underrated Final Fantasy tracks, which I am going to be on that episode, but I have no idea what I'm going to choose.
So all of FF3.
FF3 is a good choice for that. Yeah. So I might do that. Yeah. Maybe that's when I finally bring on. No, well, I can't say it because I might actually do it. Okay. Yeah. So PlayStation 1, underrated Final Fantasy. And then now we're at the end of September already. We're revisiting town themes. Because even though there are some other themes we haven't done yet, we did town themes, but it was in August of 2014. So I think it's been long enough. We can do more town themes again. So that is what is coming up on the show. We hope you look forward to it. We're definitely looking forward to putting them all together. If you have thoughts on this episode, if you have ideas for topics or any other feedback you would like to share with us, you can reach us at music@rpgfan.com. If you want to reach me, well, I check that email, but you can also email me at mike@rpgfan.com. And how about everyone else? What's the best way for people to reach you, Hilary?
Email would be the best way. I'm hilary@rpgfan.com. And I have some feedback.
You have feedback?
I do. You could call one of the Final Fantasy 14 podcasts Raban Encounter.
Raban Encounter.
Oh, yes.
That's good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because we always have to have an R, huh?
He was the first R character I thought of.
Okay. I like it. How can people reach you, Audra?
Email audrab@rpgfan.com.
Okay. And Peter?
You can't. Please don't.
Oh, okay.
At the moment, I don't really have a site email, and I also am not going to be. I'm not on Twitter anymore because Twitter is what it is right now. So yeah, I don't really have a social media plug to share yet. When I do get another one, then we'll cross that. We'll see.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, it's a shifting landscape.
I would even mention
it really is.
I would even mention on this episode like what Twitter is rebranded into, but by the time this publishes, it could be different. So why even bother?
Yeah, right. It's like there's really no point because it's just untenable as a service right now.
Right. So in the future, look for RPG Fan on Mastodon and Blue Sky. That's a joke. I mean, it might be a joke. We don't know yet, but we don't think it's going to be Twitter. So yeah. That aside. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out our other episodes of Rhythm Encounter. We do have 114 of them. And beyond that, RPG Fan has 2 other podcasts. We have Random Encounter that posts every other week opposite Rhythm Encounter. So that is about current RPG news, reviews. Jono hosts that and always likes to highlight like new reviews on the site, which sometimes are new items and sometimes are retro things. So I don't know what's coming up next because it really always depends on what's on the site. And then, of course, we have Retro Encounter that posts right now it's posting every other Thursday. And when this goes up, we're actually going to be right between a 2-parter on Disco Elysium. Yeah, Hilary, you're on that one.
I am.
Along
Excited.
with several other people. You've been playing it lately and just really enjoying it. So yeah, so be sure to check out Retro Encounter and their playthrough of Disco Elysium. I'm sure that's going to be a very, very interesting series of episodes.
None of us are going to have the exact same game. It's going to be amazing.
I know. That's what I'm excited about. Like, you're all going to have totally different experiences. So yeah, check those out. You can find RPG Fan on most social media at RPGFan.com. So you'll find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. Be sure to check those out. And then, of course, RPGFan.com is our main site.
Especially notable if you like trails. We've been doing a lot of that lately.
A lot of trails, yeah. And then lastly, of course, I have to mention, even though our shop affiliate said I should have said this at the beginning and I didn't, so maybe I'll do that next episode. But we do have a shop of merchandise. So you can find that at rpgfan.com/shop. So we have general RPG Fan merchandise, and we do have 25th anniversary merchandise because this is our 25th year. And that's only going to be available until the end of the year. So if you had your eye on it, I encourage you to check it out so you can get a shirt, a mug, a phone case. So many people on staff, like, it's really sweet. Like, so many people on staff have bought merchandise, even though, like, I didn't ask anyone to and didn't force anyone to. But, like, people keep saying, it's like, oh, look, I bought a shirt and I bought this mug. And I'm like, it's really nice. And everyone seems happy with it. You know, I can at least vouch for the phone cases. I think are very, very nice. Mm-hmm. So
I love my mug and my sweatshirt.
Oh, you got a sweatshirt, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. I feel like what we seem to sell the most are shirts, sometimes hoodies, and stickers. A lot of people like their RPG Fan stickers. So yeah, again, you can check all that out at rpgfan.com/shop. And then the last thing is, if you enjoyed this show or any show, we would love it if you could support us on your podcast app or platform of choice. So if you could rate us, review us, or even just share a link with people, we appreciate that because we like having people listening and we like getting feedback on the show. So there you go. And that is just about our show, except we, of course, have a bonus track. And Audra has our bonus dungeon theme today. So what are we closing out with?
Oh, we are closing out with The Winds of Fate from Persona 5.
Awesome. Where does that play? Even though I have not finished Persona 5.
It is, I believe it's the casino dungeon.
Okay.
Yep. Sounds right.
Cool. Well, you can pretty much never go wrong with, well, actually, I was going to say you can never go wrong with Persona 5 music, but really Persona music. So that's an excellent choice and not something we touched on in this episode. So I'm excited for that. So, all right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time. And we're going to close out with The Whims of Fate from Persona 5. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
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 But first we have to move that bunny.
Oh gosh, what is she doing?
Why do you lay there?
Hey,
Bunny.
it's not a good spot for you to lounge.
Okay. I'm sorry if this is TMI, but
Don't let her in the
Matoya
bathroom.
doesn't always use the litter box as litter box because she has the whole cage.
Yeah.
But sometimes the spot where she decides to stand and use as her litter box, she just like, I'm gonna lay here now. We're like, no,
Oh.
you can lay anywhere else. Please lay anywhere else.
And usually it's not an issue because we leave the hutch open a lot.
Yeah.
So she has plenty of other good places to choose. But
Yep.
sometimes she's just like, okay, I'm gonna lounge here.
Yeah. I have to incubate these now.
I'm done. I have emptied. I have laid my little tiny eggs. I will now
Yeah.
mother them.